Welcome to CUTV News Radio, where our hosts Doug Llewellyn and Jim Masters talk to today's top thinkers from all around the world to bring you information, inspiration, and thought-provoking ideas that you can put to use in your personal or professional life right now. Covering a broad range of topics, we dig deep to discover what makes today's top thinkers tick. CUTV News Radio. It's the show where ideas matter. And now, here's today's host, Doug Llewellyn.
Well, thank you very much. Hi, folks. Welcome back. Nice to have you with us today. On this edition of CUTV News Radio, we're going to be specializing in some information of real importance to women in the world of business. It's vitally important for business to look at the challenges that women face these days and to help clear the path for talented, dynamic women leaders to rise to the top. Nowadays, creating a work environment where women can thrive and applying initiatives that support, advance, retain, and reward them is not only the right thing to do, it is the smart thing to do and the strategic way to go. Alexandra Salamis is the founder and president of Integral Leadership Design, providing leadership coaching and consultation services to organizations and individuals, and she's been doing this now for over 25 years. She's a former executive and a member of the Forbes Coaches Council, also a certified member of the Association of Change Management Professionals. She has been awarded the International Coach Federation certification. And by the way, she was nominated for Canada's Top 100 Most Powerful Women Award last year. She also holds 2 master's degrees in the field of human development. Her purpose in life is to empower women to lead as women. She focuses on leadership coaching for women who are already leaders, who want to be leaders, and women need to take charge, she points out, to be clear and boldly drive their destiny so they can confidently lead others. According to Alexandra, we urgently need more diverse leaders, and one way we can do that is by having more women leaders in the world. This isn't saying that men are bad and women are good, only that women can bring something new and different to the leadership table that leverages the power of diversity. And based on her own experiences and her own hard lessons, which she learned, Alexandra was inspired to create her Women's Leadership Coaching Program. It's called Purpose, Passion, and Presence for Women Rising. The program is offered to companies and to individual women, and it focuses on helping women become their very best selves as leaders by defining their leadership presence. That's really what we're going to be talking about. Alexandra Salamis, she is the founder and the president of Integral Leadership Design. It's a firm headquartered in Ottawa in Ontario, Canada, and she is on the line with us today from Ottawa, where it's a rainy day and snow is on the way, so could be better, couldn't it? Anyway, lovely to have you with us, Alexandra. How are you today?
Oh, I'm well, and thank you so much, Doug. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you and all your listeners.
Well, look, we love having you here, and this is such a really valid and important subject to talk about. To give our guests a little bit of your background, tell me a little bit about your story in the world of business, and finally, what led you to want to be so important in the helping of other women to help them succeed in business. What about your own story? Let's start there, a little bit of that, okay?
Sure. I think, my story starts actually quite a few years ago as an executive. I coached a number of women in the company where I worked. And as I worked with these exceedingly talented and competent women, I began to notice and really pay attention to 2 things. One, that although they were very competent women, many of whom received great performance reviews, they didn't have the matching confidence for their level of competence. And the second thing I noticed was that the women were not getting promoted at the same rate as the men. So when I started doing the math, I discovered that the number of women declined the further up the corporate ladder they went. And I began to realize that for myself, my own prospects for advancement as an assistant vice president were slim. And as I listened to the women's stories, it started to really sink in that they and I were working in a company culture that equated leadership with power plays, one-upmanship, competitiveness, and aggressiveness. And some would call that the old boys club. And I knew for me that I had reached the proverbial glass ceiling. And even though the company prided itself in wanting to have more women in senior executive positions, the reality was that it was really closed down to accepting new forms of leadership practices like collaboration and cooperation. And, couple that with, it was an extremely stressful time in my life as I felt super shaky at work, and I was in debt, and I was going through a messy marital breakup all at the same time. In spite of all that, I was interested in applying for a more senior executive position that had come open. And when I expressed my interest to the senior VP, for a senior VP position, to the CEO, he told me that I lacked executive presence and that he would be interviewing external candidates only. And I was crushed.
Wow.
And my final proof that I was working in an environment that was essentially toxic to more collaborative forms of leadership came when I began to work with the external candidate who did get the job and who was now my new boss. So guess what? The CEO did hire a woman, and she exemplified the competitive and aggressive leadership practices that were predominant in the company when I was there. And I could tell from the very beginning that she didn't like me, and I suspected she knew that I had expressed an interest in her position. So the writing was on the wall, and about 3 months later, I was asked to leave. And that's when I started my business with my purpose and passion in life to empower women to lead as women.
That's a great story. That really is. And I'm sure there are a lot of other women who have experienced what you have, what you've been through. I mean, that's tough. That's tough to.
Yeah, it was. It was tough. There was a lot going on. It was tough. I will say, was probably rather naive. The women I was coaching were there longer than I was, so they had experienced a lot more of this than I had, and I felt like I was kind of looking into my future, and the future was not that bright. Yeah, no doubt. And I've certainly spoken to other women, obviously through coaching and just in terms of friends, and many of whom have experienced similar realities.
Well, you didn't let it crush you. Good for you.
No.
I mean, you founded this company, Integral Leadership Design. By the way, you have a really good website. Anybody listening who would want to follow along with us or wants more information or wants to know how to get in touch with you, our guest, Alexandra Salamis, go to integralleadershipdesign.com. integralleadershipdesign.com. That's where you'll find a lot of information, and it's really interesting because one of the big sections in your website is about your Women's Leadership Development Program, Purpose, Passions, and Presence for Women Rising. Tell me a little bit about how this program works and what you do to help women involved in this program.
So I start from the premise that we as women lead best by honoring ourselves. And we do that by activating our unique purpose, values, skills, strengths, and talents, and by taking care of what I call self-limiting habits that are standing in our way. And so coming from this kind of inspirational core, we can, as leaders, naturally make a profound, significant difference with impact. And essentially, my aim is for women to become the architect and navigator of their own lives. And so my program is offered to companies and individual women, and it focuses on helping women become their very best selves as leaders. And with my support and guidance, the program gets women working on their self-leadership development, because it's really what I call an inside-out job. And there are 5 pillars associated with the program. The first pillar is called Be Authentically You, and that focuses on getting super clear about what your values are and taking action to align your personal and professional life with those values. The second pillar is Living a Whole Life, and that's all about defining our true purpose in life. That includes asking and answering questions like, why am I here? And what am I meant to do? And once women get solid on that, they then work on curating a purposeful life fueled by their authenticity. The third pillar, Be Clear, which is figuring out what are those self-defeating habits that are standing in our way and are not serving us well. And I'm talking about habits like perfectionism, downplaying our accomplishments, and being a people pleaser. And this pillar also focuses on researching and taking action on gender bias in our environment. And for those of us who don't think that gender bias exists, I came across these stats a couple of days ago, Doug, and they blew me away. In 2017, 25,000 sex-based discrimination claims were filed.
Wow.
In 2018, victims of sex-based discrimination received more than 148 million in payouts from those complaints.
Wow.
Another interesting stat is women are 25 to 46% more likely to be hired with gender-blind applications. So that's where people don't know what the gender is when people are applying.
Yeah. Interesting.
And
very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, we can go on and on, but simply to say that, in my own experience, I was blind to the gender bias, and it was only through the fortunate luck of having been able to coach other women in the organization who had been there longer than I was, that I was able to see kind of the reality of what was going on. I was blind to that completely.
Well, let's talk about how you help women today. First off, what's a typical picture of the kind of client that comes to you for help? Are they young women who are just starting out, in careers and looking for improvement in their job situation? Are they women who have a lot of experience and they're exploring situations like you went through? What's a typical person who comes to you?
Well, they run the gambit, actually, Doug, and I offer 3 editions of the program, to tailor it. So for young women, I offer more of what I call a boot camp program, and there it's a lot shorter program, and it's a quicker, more faster-paced program, and it's really about getting young women to start thinking about these issues, what it is, how solid are they, what is their purpose, what are their values in life? I mean, people in general are very quick to spend money on external certifications. And what the boot camp is trying to do is to say, you need to spend some time and money on your own self-development. Because that leadership piece, it really is an inside-out job. And, with all the swaying of social media and, young women and men not feeling good enough, it's really about those young women developing a solid core for themselves, because that's the constant in all our lives, is ourselves and our solid core. Whether we work for corporations, nonprofits, for ourselves as entrepreneurs, in the end, there's ourselves and that core piece, and that's what sustains us through life, basically. I have another program that's more geared for group, and that's my corporate program. I also offer it corporately to organizations where a group of women come together, and that's really powerful because women get to learn from each other. They get to hear each other's stories. They support each other. So it's a very invigorating type of program. And then finally, there's my third program, which is what I call my premium edition. And that's high touch. I work one-on-one with women over an extended period of time, and it's a very intensive program. Typically, those women are women who are already in leadership positions and are stalled in their career for some reason.
Let me ask you a question about how you work with people. You're based in Ottawa. You do this
Yes.
in person with people. I'm wondering if somebody is listening, and maybe they're in California or they're in Florida, or
Right.
they could be, they could be in England hearing us today. Quite frankly, do you work with people who are not in your, right where you are in Ottawa?
Absolutely. Great question. And, as a matter of fact, just recently I've coached a few women in India, and I'm working with some women in Kuala Lumpur. I mean, nowadays with the online capabilities, if you had asked me a few years ago, Doug, would I ever coach someone online? I would have said, oh, no way. But not only the technology, but our comfort with that technology, and the world has become smaller in many ways, and I actually got coached myself online just to kind of see how does it feel. Do I have the same sense of connection with my coach? And I felt like there was nothing missing, frankly. It was wonderful.
So how long does a typical involvement or engagement with a client last with you? I know the 5-day program, you spelled that out, but with most of these coaching engagements that you have in your premier program, that's a pretty lengthy one. How often do you meet with the client and get together with them and help them?
Yeah, so the premier program runs for 16 weeks, and typically we meet every 2 weeks. And what happens there is that the program is predefined. So it's a set of modules, my pillars, the 5 pillars, and each pillar has the theme associated with it. And there are a number of exercises that women have to complete in relation to the pillar. And so then when we meet, we talk about how did that go? How did you make out? Where did you get kind of tangled up, and what can I do to help with that? And, once we've kind of cleared the decks on that, then we introduce the next pillar. I walk them through what the work is over the next 2 weeks. So typically it's every 2 weeks that we meet, and it's a lot of work, Doug. I mean, it's a real investment. I mean, I'm working, but the women are working way harder than I am. And, there's a lot of self-assessments, a lot of reflection exercises. They're encouraged to journal. There's a lot of articles that they read. There's a lot of really sort of laying down the foundations so that they are stronger in terms of their self-leadership and their leadership presence moving forward. And then with the premium program, we end by doing a podcast. So there, the participant gets to really kind of bring it all together, and I do a question and answer with them, and they get to keep that, and they get to. It's really a way of them honoring their journey over the last 16 weeks. The other one, the group one, is shorter. It's more of a 12-week program. Similar.
Let me ask you that. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to ask you, what kind of difference do you see in these women, who come to you for help after working with them for a period of 12, 13, 14, 16 weeks? Do you see a huge difference in them? Are they like different ladies after they've gone through this kind of a program?
Yes, they are more clear. There's more of a solidity to them. There's less hesitancy. They're more clear about their path moving forward. They're very clear about what their purpose is. That's key. And they are bolder. I mean, even as the program's going on, they will share with me, what it is that they're trying and they're implementing in their workplace or in their personal life. And they have tremendous achievement as they're even moving through the program. And, night and day, and I'm just blown away by their progress.
Yeah, I thought you'd say that. Night and day is a good way to put it. I'm not surprised at all. And that's good. Come on, that's what you want.
It is. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
On the other hand, let me ask you a quick question. Do you think things in general in the world of business are getting better for women now? I mean, the impression I have is that it is. Men are, the businesses are focusing on trying to get women. Diversity is a big thing, not just racially, but, women in the leadership positions. Do you feel it that way? Do you think so?
Yeah, I think absolutely it's moving in the right direction. I think it's a bit slow, particularly around pay equity and issues like that. It's moving slowly. It's moving in the right direction. I think the piece that organizations need to really start thinking about is, looking at their structures, their policies, their procedures, and really making them diversity friendly. And to your point, not just women diversity, but diversity of all kinds. How do we create a workplace that welcomes everyone here, right? And gets everyone together and honors and respects the impact that diversity can bring. I mean, the world's complicated now, right, Doug? It's not just one way anymore. That doesn't work. It really doesn't. We have to have diverse perspectives in order to tackle, our most challenging challenges, if you will.
We're talking about working with individuals, but you work with a lot of organizations as well, and I assume corporations. You have a lot. I'm impressed with the corporate clients that you've worked with. I mean, the list is very prestigious. I'm also amazed. I mean, you work obviously with the government of Canada, but also the New Zealand government. I mean, my goodness, you're going halfway around the world there.
Well, I lived there for a period of time. So
oh, you did?
Made that easier.
Okay, I get it. But talk to me about how you help corporate clients. What about that aspect of your business?
So again, typically what I do a number of different things. I know we've been focusing primarily on the women coaching program, but I also do team coaching. And again, so what does that look like? In corporations, often, leadership teams, I'm often called in or might be called in because a team is having significant problems. A lot of competition, people aren't talking to each other. And so a lot of my work revolves around trying to get that sorted out and working with people in a way that's more boosting the safety in a group in order to get people working more productively together. So that's a male and female thing. That's whoever's in the team that I work with. So I do a lot of workshop facilitations as well at a corporate level, and really trying to grease the wheels so teams can start, working more efficiently, more effectively, more productively with members with each other.
And when you're working with teams, how do you make a team, improve a team? How long do you work with teams in an organization? How does that work out?
Typically, it's interesting because often people say, oh, can you come in and do a session and then we'll be better? And it's like, I wish it could work that way, but it doesn't. I mean, a big part of it is establishing trust. People need to trust me, right? And so a team coaching usually involves the team, but also individual coaching as well. And sometimes we'll introduce what we call 360 assessments, and there people get assessed by their colleagues, by the people that work above them, and the folks that report to them. And that provides feedback in terms of how they are as individuals. So I'll work with them as individuals in the team and then collectively work with them as they're working as a team to help them be better team members with each other.
And I should point out, you also are focusing on part of your aspects in corporations is corporate leadership development for women. You really are trying to help gear them for leadership positions in the corporation, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. The program that I've developed is also offered corporately. Ideally, how that works is a lot of corporations already have leadership development programs, and that's great. Often, though, I'm asked to come in and talk to the leadership about also hosting, sponsoring a leadership development program that is targeted to the women in the organization. And these can be women who are aspiring to be leaders, or they can be current leaders. And so I will tailor my offering to the requirement of the organization, and I will move through a process with the group of women, which, again, is a combination of individual one-on-one coaching as well as a group coaching piece, because women really love to learn together. They're what I would call social learners. They feed off of each other. They are a big source of encouragement and support for each other. So we create that environment within the organization. And so then obviously once I leave, that kind of momentum continues as they move up in their career.
I'm prompted to ask you for a success story, an example of a success story, someone that you helped coach, you worked with them for a while, helped them develop their capabilities, and you saw them go on and improve their situation. Any we only have about 2.5 minutes left. Any example you'd like to pass along?
Yeah, let me just think about that one for 30 seconds.
Well, I didn't mean to put you on the spot there, because I know you've talked to so many women in your career here.
That's okay. I'm actually thinking of one particular woman who, again, was working in primarily a male-dominated working environment. And the interesting thing is that what happened to her is she didn't know why she felt so crappy. She felt that she was less than. She came to the program feeling like she was less than, that she wasn't a very good leader, that she wasn't appreciated. She was, feared that she'd get fired tomorrow, hugely stressed out. And, we started sort of peeling the onion around that piece. And what she came to realize for herself, was she couldn't be herself at work. She had to put on this persona, this mask, and that was causing her extreme stress. And it affected her personal life as well. She wasn't sleeping properly, she wasn't eating, all that kind of stuff. So what we ended up doing is we started really exploring the idea of maybe she needed to leave and really give back to her the power of realizing that she could define what kind of organization do I want to work for. And she ended up finding one, and it's like, again, I hate to say it again, but it was like night and day. Once she landed in the new place, she blossomed. She felt valued. She felt respected, all of the above.
See, that's a great story. Exactly a great story. I'm not surprised. Anyway, Alexandra, thank you so much. We've been talking with the founder and the president of Integral Leadership Design, based in Ottawa, in Canada. Her name, Alexandra Salamis, and if you go to their website, you can find out much more information about the firm and how to get in touch with Alexandra. The email address, or not email, the website address is integralleadershipdesign.com. Alexandra, thank you so much. I wish we had more time, but we're out of time for now. All right, I appreciate your time. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us. It's been a great pleasure having you as a guest. Hope you enjoyed it, everybody.
You've been listening to CUTV News Radio. If you want to learn more about our programming or perhaps be considered for a future show, visit us on the web at www.cutvnews.com. And if you enjoyed listening to today's show, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Stitcher, and be sure to write a review. Thanks for listening, and from all of us at CUTV News Radio, we hope you have a productive and inspired day.
By the way, folks, Alexandra will be back again next week at the same time, right here on CUTV News Radio. Join us again next week. Bye for now.